the most wonderful time of the year. Yes, it is the most wonderful time of the year. And that time of the year is worst books of the year. Woo! Ignore my notes. It is December, which means it is time to count down the worst of 2022. And this is coming from the Criticizer of Books. That is my nickname that was given to me. I did not give it to myself, all because I don't like most books. And here are the 10 that I hated the most in 2022. Okay, before we start, let's just get it out the way. Y'all know, if you don't agree with me, sorry, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. It's fine. Secondly, I probably am not going to remember what most of these books are about, because if I don't like a book, once I put that book down, shut it, it's gone. The names are gone. The majority of the plot is gone. I don't remember much. So I apologize now if I cannot coherently describe anything, because I've probably already forgotten everything. And 3, I'm not going to remember anybody's name. No one's name will be remembered. Once I've read a book, once again, usually it can be any book, not necessarily books that I hate. After I've read a book, even if I liked it, I don't have enough space up here to memorize book characters' names. So I will be remembering no one's names. These are in order from 10 to 1. 10 being the least worst, 1 being the worst of the worst. Number 10. And I know this is a not necessarily unpopular opinion, but I'm in the minority here with this book, and I totally understand that. It is Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I don't even know the author's name. Once again, I ain't gonna remember no author's name. I'm not even gonna try to. I'm not going to put effort into books that I did not like. So, sorry. Not sorry. Daughter of the Moon Goddess is about this girl, I don't know, let's call her Stacy. And Stacy is the daughter of the Moon Goddess. And I think the Moon Goddess was like, I have a secret and you need to go before they kill me. And she was like, okay, but I want to restore you amongst the people. And she didn't tell her mom that, but she was like, okay, I'm gonna go and then I'm gonna join this army of the king or something. I don't know. And she does it. And I think they fall in love, but it's forbidden because she's a captain in his army and he's the prince. And so they can't fall in love, and then they fall in love. I don't know. Okay, so the problem with this book is that, first of all, it was adult. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. Hi, my name is Dawn. Welcome back. I am a teen librarian in a public library, and therefore I read a lot of YA, and I kind of read some adult fantasy, but mostly YA fantasy. And let me tell you, this isn't even YA. It's middle grade. It's middle grade because it is like everything's being shoved down your throat. There's like no room for like reader inference or like themes that we can like pull out and come. It is force fed to us. Everything is force fed to us. Problem number 1. Problem number 2, this book is too fucking long. Way too long. Way too long. Number 3, it is ridiculous. It is just like stuff on stuff on stuff on stuff on stuff. She's the daughter of the Moon Goddess. She's got to leave the moon. Then she's got to go join the army to win favor for her mommy. Then she falls in love with the prince. Then he's like, hey, love you. Then she falls in love with the captain. And he's like, hey, girl, let's go. And then she go. And then she come find out some shenanigans. And then after the shenanigans, she goes and saves the prince. And the prince is with the fox queen. And the fox queen is like, hey, join my army. And she's like, no, I am with the prince. And then the fox queen's like, fuck you. And then it's just all over the place. It's so much shit. And none of it is good. Next. I'm sorry. What the hell just My notes are not in order. Sorry, Daughter of the Moon Goddess was number 6. I got excited. Number 8. I can only find 8 horrible books, but trust me, I have a whole list of disappointed books. I'm sorry. Daughter of the Goon Modest? No. Daughter of the Moon Goddess was number 6. Number 8 is The Agathas. I don't remember who wrote this book. I want to say Emily Henry. No, I don't think she would have written this trash. The Agathas is one of the books in the brand spanking new popular true crime fiction genre for YA. This is YA. It is about this girl. I don't know her name. Her name is Dana. And Dana is I think she's like coming home from like a stint somewhere. Something must have happened. She broke up with her boyfriend and she had to go off somewhere to like get some mental health treatment. I don't remember. I think that's what happened. And when she comes back, everyone is like, ooh, you stank. And she's like, what's y'all problem? And they like, you stank. And so then she tries to like befriend another girl who's like a nerd or something. And together they like try to rule the school. I don't know. It's a true crime fiction book. That's all I know. And I think it's kind of like Mean Girls, where didn't the Mean Girls have maybe I'm thinking of the Heathers. So I think the popular girls are called the Agathas. No, that's not true. I think Dana and her new nerd friend call themselves the Agathas because of Agatha Christie. I don't know. Because why would you, as a popular group, want to be named Agatha? That's not a cute name. Heathers, that's cute for 1989 time. You know how many Heathers I knew growing up? A lot. So that made sense. But I think this is what they call themselves. I got sidetracked. Anyway, this book is bad because, and I believe it's written by 2 people, which is already a red flag. I have read my share of books that are duo written. I don't know the proper term for it. And a lot of times one author is stronger than the other one. And you can tell. I don't know if one author writes one character, another author writes another character. And if that's the case, one character is always weaker than the other character. Or I don't know if they split plot. I don't know how they do it, but almost always one character sucks and the other one is good. And usually the author that is a stronger writer has the better part of the story. Anyway, the Agathas was all kind of bad. It was just formulaic, tropey. None of the characters were any good. The mystery was stupid. It was just not a good true crime fiction book. If you want a really good YA true crime fiction series, may I suggest, and you probably already know this, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I personally do not like the Inheritance Games series, but a lot of people seem to. But sure, the True Inheritance, I don't think it's called that. The Inheritance Games trilogy, go with those. Start with those. There are plenty out there. Start with those. Do not read the Agathas. It's horrible. Number 7. Oh God. The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. Now I remember the author's name because, okay. So Susan Dennard wrote the Truth Witch series, which I know is very popular. I read the first book. I actually enjoyed the first book. They gave it a 4. I wasn't quite like, ooh, I need to read the next ones. I didn't really care. I think it's because, and this is what usually happens with books like this, is the second book is usually about a character that I don't really care about. And so I decided to just not continue the series. So I think that's what happened in Truth Witch. But anyway, this is Susan Dennard's, I think this is her second series ever. And like I said, I didn't mind Truth Witch. I thought the character development was pretty good. It was pretty interesting. It was not tropey or anything. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna give her next series a go. That was a mistake. This is about Tammy. I don't know her name. Tammy is a nightmare, I think. Or she is a family of nightmares. Are they nightmares? No, they're luminaries, because that's the name of the book. They're luminaries, and they keep nightmares from getting out. There you go. They like guard a forest, whereas like it's like an in-between between like the real world and the forest is where all the nightmares, when I say nightmares, I mean vampires, werewolves, those kinds of things. And they stop the nightmares from getting out. And of course her father was banished for betraying the luminaries, and you know he was set up. Just, it's not a spoiler, it's formulaic, come on. And so then they shunned her and her family, and she's like, no, we don't want that. So I'm going to try and find a loophole in their little rule, and then I'm going to regain my family's great name for the luminaries. And that's what she tries to do. Then of course she finds out there was some shenanigans happening, and there we go with that. Okay. This book was horrible because the writing was incredibly dumbed down. Susan Dennard, I don't know how to say it. She went from actually pretty good YA writing to really bad middle grade writing. She did this thing constantly, this is what I remember, where she would, you know, would be a sentence, and then there would be a lot of italics phrases for no reason. It's like she's trying to give the reader more information by italicizing it. I feel like that's what they do in middle grade. I don't read a lot of middle grade, but I imagine that's what they do. And it was really bad. Secondly, there was this misunderstood fanboy trope. I fucking hate that trope because it's never done well and it's been done to death and no one does anything different with it, including Susan Dennard. So then we have the not misunderstood, I just said that. Then we have the, oh, my dad was kicked out for traitorism. No, he wasn't. You know, he was set up. That old gem. And it was just full of tropes. We've read this story a million times. This will be a good book if you are very, very, very new into fantasy. Like you have literally never read a fantasy book in your life. Then you would probably enjoy it. But if you are an avid fantasy reader, keep walking. Keep walking. Number 5. Am I at 5? No, I'm not. 6, Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I already went through all that. Let's keep going. 5, Liar's Crown. Don't remember the name of this author. Okay, so this is about a set of twins named Kiki and Pee-Pee. I don't know their names. And Kiki is the spare. There's an heir and there's a spare. Already sounds interesting. The spare is raised and groomed to step in when a curse, or like a prophecy, I should say, not a curse, a prophecy is going to come true. And the prophecy states that this king is going to come and he's going to steal the heir for personal gain. And so every couple of generations, there's a spare born, there's a set of twins born, and the spare steps in at the last second, pretends to be the heir, so the king takes the spare, and then the king hopefully just kills her and not does any other horrible things to her. However, something happened and she steps in as the spare when she's supposed to. She does her duty. She's like, I've been raised to step in and be the spare. And she does it with her chin up. But there was like a mutiny afoot or something, and the person who takes her is not the king. He's actually someone who needs her help to save his people. All of that sounds fabulous. And to be honest, the prologue was great. And then the rest of the story happened. So the problem with this book is that there's too much plot. This author could not withhold the depth of the story that she was trying to say. She had too much world, basically what I'm trying to say. Too much world. She couldn't handle all the world. She had monsters and elemental magic and just normal magic, and some people had magic, some people didn't have magic, but I didn't know why these people had magic and why these people didn't have magic. And then the people who lived in the north were suffering from like mudslides, and the people in the south were suffering from like heat, and the people in the middle were like hurricanes. I don't know, but nothing was ever explained. She would just drop it in on your ass and you would just be like, okay. But after a while, it was like, excuse me, ma'am, I'm gonna need for you to explain your world because this is ridiculous. The second problem is the old shitty trope of, oh my God, you're so hot. He's so hot, but he's kidnapping me and he's gonna kill me, but he's so hot. But I know he's going to kill me, but he's so hot. If you are being kidnapped, you are not lusting after your captor. Number 4. Oh boy. Okay. So once again, I am in the way minority of this book, literally, because I'm a Negro. And it is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Modern Women. I don't know the name of this damn book. It's by that man, Henry something. The cover. This is the cover. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's get into it. I need to put my notes down for this one. Okay. So if you want to hear my full hating of this book, My friend Ashley and I do a podcast, and we podcasted this book, and both of us hated it. I am Black, she is white, and she did not like this book either. And I say racial things because I think most of the people who are enjoying this book are non-Black people. Okay, first of all, this book is about these ladies who live in the suburbs. I want to say it's set in the 90s. And, they're housewives. And then one day a mysterious man moves into town and turns out he's a vampire and he's killing kids to feed his self because, he has to survive. He's a vampire. And these women band together, even though their husbands are shitty, and they band together to save the town and their families and everything. On the surface, sounds great. Here's the problem. The author, who is not Black, who is not a historian of African American studies or a professor of African American studies, he has decided to use poor Black people as the food for the vampire. And not only does he do that, but he uses the very sensitive theme of used and exploited Black children. Many, many, many kids go missing in this country. But the ones that the media focuses on are white. So, your Natalie Holloways, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but there are several, and you know who I'm talking about. The girl who was just found, who was murdered by her boyfriend in the desert. It's usually white women who get the focus. But there are thousands of young Black girls who go missing. Nobody pays attention to them. If Mr. Hendricks wanted to use this topic for good, he would have really focused on the problem of young Black women who are being taken, used, and abused, exploited into sex slavery, or murdered, or whatever, and that the media does not give any attention to. He would have shed a light on that. But instead, he uses it as shock value. And no, that is not okay. It is not okay because it is a real issue, and he used a very sensitive real issue for shock and for his plot. And I mean, he had these people living in the ghetto and with their ghetto speak, and these very scary thugs who are going to hurt these white women coming into their town. When it comes from a white person, it's insensitive. I don't care if some Black people do talk that way. I don't need you to stereotype it, white person. Sorry, that's offensive. This book was offensive. I hated every second of it. I don't understand why people love it so much. And I'm guessing it, like I said, I think it's a lot of white women because honestly, I have a friend who really liked it. She's a white woman. But as a Black woman, and as a woman, so we have this man who is not a woman, who is not a professor of women's studies, who is not a historian of women's studies, who's going to tell me how I am oppressed as a woman by shitty men. I'm sorry, I do not need a man to tell me how women are oppressed and treated poorly and looked over. It was pandering. It was not nuanced. And it sucked ass. And I hated this book. Next. Well, I'm getting through this list really quickly. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. There was a number 9. I'm terrible at this. It's like I've never done this before. Here's what I did. Okay, so here's what happened. So I went through my Goodreads and I just listed all the books I gave 1s and 2s to. And then instead of writing them in order, I just used that list and just wrote 7, 2, 5, 1. I didn't put them in order, but I'm reading them as if I did. So number 9 was Dr. Moreau. That's my bad. The daughter of Dr. Moreau. Don't remember the author's name. I want to say her last name is Moreno. I know a lot of people love this book. Okay. I guest starred on another podcast. I'll put that podcast name here for my full review if you want to hear my full review of this book. If you want to hear my full review of this book, you can listen to that podcast. Daughter of Dr. Moreau is a retelling of the island of Dr. Moreau, but it is set in Mexico. And it's set in, like, I don't know what year it is. I want to say it's the turn of the century of 20th century, where there were people who were, I don't want to say colonizing, but they were taking Mexican indigenous workers and exploiting them. So this book has those elements in it. And it also is dealing with, you know, taking animals and trying to make them human and exploiting them as workers inhumanely. Once again, on the surface, awesome idea. Now, I was not a lover of Mexican Gothic. I liked the idea of it. I like the historical fiction attempt. The cover is beautiful. Much like this book. All those things I said about Mexican Gothic, same for this. The execution. So first of all, this book was supposed to be a lot of things. It was supposed to be kind of gross because the island of Dr. Moreau is dealing with like vivisection and cutting up animals, and it's a lot of blood and guts, and it's gross. This book kind of did that, but not quite. We have a main character, Carlotta, I want to say her name is. She was very pampered and very whiny. Understandably so, she's very sheltered. And my problem was not really with Carlotta. She did make some dumbass decisions, maybe one or two. But for the most part, she wasn't the problem. The problem was that this author is not a good writer, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like her writing. I do not like her writing style. It's very simplistic, especially considering what she's trying to do, which is shed a light on Mexican culture and Mexican history, which we do not get a lot of in fiction. And I just want her to do it better. It's always very surface level. She never really goes too deep into those themes. And she also, another thing, and I was wrong, I said Carlotta was the problem. Carlotta was the problem. She does this thing, and she did this in Mexican Gothic, where she will have a main character, and they're usually set back in the day when women were just supposed to be pretty, and that was it. But the girls in her character, the girls in her books, they want to, you know, go to school, and they want to make their own money, and they want to be something. And they always start off that way until they meet a man, and that's when they just forget all their hopes and dreams and turn into dum-dums. This happens in both of her books. I hate all of that. So yeah, I didn't like Carlotta for that specific reason. The whole subplot of finding the main guy who was leading the revolution was just like barely there. They mentioned this guy a couple of times, and then they go find him, and then something happens and they leave. Like why mention it? I understand historically it's relevant, then do something with it. If you're going to mention that person who is historically relevant, do something with it. It was just, the execution was just bad. It was just bad. I don't like this author. I don't like her writing style, and I will not be reading any more of her books, even if the cover is calling my name. I will say no, cover. No. I must not pick you up and read you. All right. Number 2. I'm back to number 2, guys. Oof. Oh, buddy. Another author who I cannot read any more of their books is Holly Black. And that is The Book of Night. So I have read my share of Holly Black books. I have liked none of them. I read The Coldest Girl in Cold Town. It was okay. And I read that a long time ago. I didn't just read that recently. I read that a long time ago when it first came out. I read that book that she wrote with Cassandra Clare, once again proving my point with these duo authors. Usually one author is really good and one author is not so great. and part of the book is really good, and part of the book isn't so great. And the part that I liked, which was probably written by Cassandra Clare, because I like her writing a hell of a lot more than Holly Black, I like that part of the book. And I'm guessing the parts that I didn't like, Holly Black wrote it. And I read Cruel Prince, which I hated, and I know it is a fan favorite, but I think it sucks ass because I don't like bully porn. I don't get it. I think it's horrible. And her main characters, her female main characters, are always so bad. Why are they so bad? And I remember this girl's name, Charlie. Oh, she stunk ass, and I remember her name because of that. Charlie, I'm not even gonna try and pretend to say what the book's about because I can't verbalize the plot, but you guys know what it's about. Everybody fucking read this book. So Holly Black tends to have really good ideas. She's one of these people that has amazing ideas, but her execution is the problem. This was a fantastic. I love shadow magic because not a lot of people do it, and some people do it well, and some people don't do it well at all. And this was horrible. It was so convoluted. It's shadow magic. Shadow magic in itself is interesting. You don't gotta add bells and whistles to make it cool. It's not like a vampire. A vampire, you gotta make him glow like glitter, and you gotta make him not burn in the Washington sun. Like, you gotta do something fancy with vampires because they've been done to death. Shadow magic is new, it's fresh, it's different. You don't really have to fancify it. Just do something, one thing interesting, and it's fine. She managed to fuck it up because she's got all this other bullshit, particularly Charlie, who's supposed to be this amazing con artist, yet she's not. She learned to pick pockets at Starbucks when she was 12, and now she's an amazing thief and con. You can't just tell me somebody's an amazing con and I'm just supposed to believe it. And then when they in the middle of their con game, whatever. Yeah, it was bad. Her relationship with her boyfriend was mediocre at best. Her sister was annoying as hell. It was just a lot. It was a lot going on. None of it was good with the exception of the idea of the shadow magic. Like, there was one little magic. So I don't think it's a spoiler. And you've all probably read it already. But in her shadow magic, your shadow can like detach from you and become its own person. That is awesome. I would like to read more about that. She didn't execute this book great at all. And I have a feeling that the Book of Night is going to be in many a booktuber's worst of the year. And the number one, which I believe this book is going to be on many of you YouTubers' worst of the year, is Light Lark by Alex Astor. Wow. I think this book probably is going to win worst book ever. If I could give zeros on Goodreads, it would have gotten a 0. Do I need to say what this book is about? I feel like I don't, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to waste any breath that I don't need to on this book. The problem with this book is that it is unoriginal. The main character, it's not even really the main character's problem. The problem is that the plot is why. She tried to do too much. So we have a country who is sinking. I believe the country's sinking. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different book. I don't think so. Something's happening. Oh, people are going to die. I don't know. And you have to enter this competition at the age of... No, that's a different part of the country. The plot is all over the place. We have a competition, and I hate books that have competitions. Thank you, Hunger Games. You have just... Oh, man. Every time a book has a competition, it's usually an afterthought. It's not the focus, whereas in Hunger Games, it was the focus, which made it interesting. But in books like this, it's an afterthought. And by that, I mean the author doesn't really put too much effort into making it new or interesting or thematic or anything. It's just, oh, let's put in a game they gotta play, and the winner of the game gets all the money, all the roses, all the prizes. But there's usually not much depth into these games, and this one was... I don't even understand why they needed to do the whole game part, because the whole point of it was to find this flower to stop the curse. That's your plot right there. Find the fucking flower and then the stupid curse. We don't need games. We don't need people who are going to die at the age of 25, and how is your civilization logically moving forward if everyone dies at 25? Who's raising these babies? 10-year-olds? Like, this makes no sense. And then we have this 900-year-old man in love with an 18-year-old. That's gross. We're tired of that. And then there's all these plot twists, and it's just like, here is where the funny part for me happened. So okay. So in library world, we have organizations. We have ALA and we have YALSA. And ALA is American Library Association. That's the overall organization for libraries. And then we have YALSA, which is the young adult division. And ALA has a conference and YALSA has a conference. And at the last conference, I believe it was the YALSA conference, Leigh Bardugo, Queen Leigh, was billed second to Alex Astor. That should never happen ever again. No. Alex Astor got top billing over Leigh Bardugo. I think the only person who should probably get top billing over Leigh Bardugo, there's not very many people. Maybe John Green, R.L. Stine, I'm sure. You know, you're going to have your classics like Judy Blume, but Alex Astor, that person should have been fired. All right, that was Dawn, the criticizer of books. Worst books of 2022. Have you read any of these books? You probably have. I'm sure you have. Let me know if you hated them too. Don't tell me if you loved them and that you hated everything I said. I don't need to hear that. Just tell me which ones you also hated so we can have our own little community of haters. All right. Thank you for joining me, and join me in my next video where I count down my most disappointed, and then following that, my top 10. Now, I did already do my top 10 in my podcast. However, I'm currently reading a book that I am actually enjoying, and that might make my top 10. I don't know. We'll see. I'm only like chapter 5, but there are several people who I trust that love this book. It is Honey and Spice. So I'm going to wait until the very last day to do my top, because I usually post my top first and then do my worst, because people really want to hear worst. They don't really care about your top. They don't care about that. They want to hear you shit all over books. So, but not this year. Not this year, friends. This year, my top is going to be the last video for 2022. All right. Thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next countdown. Bye-bye.